Good afternoon to you all, and thank you so much for coming. What I hope will be a very exciting and in fact quite a long session. So we have a good time to chat, to discuss, to argue and to debate these issues. And I'm going to set a particular framework for the afternoon in a moment. But first of all, I'd just like to ask Philip to give you a welcome and introduction. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, well, thank you very much, everyone, so far for coming. Please pray hard. Matt Ridley isn't here yet, but we're trusting that he will turn up. My job, first of all, is to... You're very welcome. My job is to, first of all, give lots of thanks. Sammy Wilson, who isn't here yet, but Sammy and Gordon Lyons, his PA, have worked to get us this room, which is fantastic. My thanks very especially to all the speakers, because it's just one of those things that work together. Suddenly everybody could come, and that's something that I'm very, very grateful for them all for doing. And also, just for a sandwich, in my instance. I want to flag up books which are on the front there. The Global Warming Policy Foundation have got a fair watch of their material. Benny Pies here, so if you want to word with him, please, and if you want any more of them, I'm sure he can organise that. Are they free? They're free. There you go. There's always something free. There are one or two other books on the table which we will charge you some money for. There is Climer's older book. I call it his older book. Heaven and Earth, Global Warming, The Missing Science. I've got one copy of that, very special, and he'll sign it and I'll charge you twice as much. Prices are out there. We've got an intriguing book called Slaying the Sky Dragon, which raises intriguing issues about whether CO2 does all the things it says it does. Up to you to have a look, read it and see whether you think it does. We have two booklets, one by Terry Jackson, who's here with us, World Population Reduction Issues. That's £3. Please pay me and I'll pay him. That's the theory. We've also got my own book, which is While the Earth Endures. There are copies of that. That's also £10, and if I sign it, I'll charge you £10. As a sort of side issue for Christmas, some of you already came across it last year. I wrote a little fable called A Climate Carol, a fable for Christmas. There are copies of that. I'll charge you a couple of quid for the Christmas box. That's there. As I said, I'm extraordinarily pleased that everybody's managed to come together in this way. It's most encouraging to see everyone. I thought I'd end my little bit with three quotations from Scripture, because it's interesting to see how, at least from my perspective, God also has scientific bent. And here's this from Leviticus, that's the Torah, for those of you who know it that way. And God says, do not use dishonest standards when measuring length, weight or quantity. Use honest scales and honest weights. I am the Lord your God who brought you up out of Egypt. And then in Proverbs, the theme is taken up again. The Lord abhors dishonest scales, but accurate weights are his delight. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom. And lastly, in the more social context of what we're dealing with in the Climate Act, Jesus replied, and you experts in the law, woe to you, because you load people down with burdens they can hardly carry, and you yourselves will not lift one finger to help them. Gentlemen, I think we're in for a feast this afternoon. Thinking of feasts, I would also like to point out, here is a lump of coal, which I keep in a plastic bag, I will make a mess. When we burn that, it produces a grain of wheat, for which I thank the Lord. Thank you.
Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, it's a real pleasure to welcome you all here. My name is Emeritus Professor Philip Scott, and I've been interested in this topic for a very long time indeed. And I was just about to say, I wonder if, just before we started, if we could all ensure that our mobile phones are turned off. Thank you very much indeed. We're not quite the National Theatre, but it could get quite exciting. So that would be beneficial, I think. And I've taken a long interest in this, and it's a real pleasure for me here now to come to chair this session on what is perhaps one of the most hubristic acts that has been passed by any parliament in the world, the Climate Change Act. And what we're going to do today, we're going to go from the science with Dr. Plimer, Professor Plimer, to the structures that we've been dealing with, the IPCC with Donna Lamper-Frost, who many of you will know and has been a marvellous contributor to this. We will then go on to the economics of the issue with Ruth, and we will end with the politics of energy with Matt Ridley, one of our finest science writers in the world today. Popular science. Fantastic. So there we are. Well, that was a timely entry, Matt. I hope you see. That's totally well done. And I just want to say one thing at the start about the structure that we're going to do. Each of the speakers will speak for between 15 to 17 minutes maximum. I'm going to be very tight on that. I'll give you a 2-minute warning, speakers, okay? We're getting to the point. The 4 speakers, the main speakers, will have that. There is then a little interlude between the first 2 speakers and the second 2 speakers, when we'll just have a little bit of hydrology and climatology, which is very nice, just a 5-minute slot. We will then move on to a session of direct questions, short questions initially. In other words, 2-sentence questions, not long diatribes, to the panel as a whole. You may direct those questions either to one individual or to the whole of the panel. We will then have a quick break. We might need it by then, I think, for visiting various offices in the houses here. And then we will go on to what will be the very lively session, I think, an open session. And again, I would ask for contributions to be much longer this time, but not too long, because there may be many people who want to speak. And that should fill us out very nicely for the whole of the 3 hours that we have available here in this session. But the context is very simple, and just to start us off, China's emissions, as you now know, under the 2010 measures, represent 24.6% of world emissions. Way above, for example, the US